Take a farmer,
a photographer,
and a teenage girl,
buy a bus,
add a dog,
and let the adventure begin.
Good morning and welcome to episode 1 of O'Neill's On the Run Life in a Bus. And today we are talking a little bit about us before we started bus life and the motivation and reasons for giving up the norm and hitting the road. So before we moved into a bus, I was doing the 9 to 5 grind. I was working in a sales job. It paid well, but I really hated it. I was having anxiety, going to work in the morning, just a big ball of stress. Felt like I could be sick every morning driving into the office. I absolutely just didn't like it. We were just stuck in the same routine, day in, day out, repetitive. And, we'd just come through the drought as well. So I think Tom was a little bit over farming, but I'll let him talk a little bit more on that. And we just wanted to change everything we were doing and start something different, have an adventure, and just get out of that 9 to 5 grind, the rut.
For me, I think it was more about just doing the same routine all the time. Like every 12 months, I was just felt like I was going through the same thing on the farm. And then when we got to the stage that it was being sold, and we sort of realised if I didn't get a job later on, we'd have nowhere to live and whatnot. We ended up buying a house around that time.
An investment property.
Yeah. And then, it was to live in originally.
Yeah.
We were going to live in it. And then the new owner of the farm offered me a job, and I went from, I think we had 3 staff on the farm to 1. I was the only one on the farm at the time. I found that was all right, but I just found it was very hard to go away. Like you're always like, I'd go and play cricket on Saturday, and then I'd spend all day Sunday just going and checking water and making sure livestock were right, and just felt like you had to be present all the time. Like you didn't have to be there all the time, but you just felt like you had to be present.
So probably more of an internalized work ethic for you, that the boss didn't expect you to be on the farm, but you felt it was your responsibility to make sure everything was good all the time and to keep an eye on things all the time. And things definitely did go wrong. You couldn't have, Sundays
right.
off but that's part of farming life. But it means you're married to the job and you literally couldn't go away, and we definitely couldn't go away together because there was always animals and things. I guess.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Like it was, I found it hard. Like I'd be kicking myself if I was away for time and then come back and, the stock had been out of water for a day or something because of, a trough had broken, or we'd run out of water and then they'd smash the trough and then everything could come back on. And then, and then especially when you were irrigating and whatnot, and then we'd be irrigating or something or cutting hay, or, there'd always be rain coming and you'd have hay on the ground. You'd be trying to get in the shed by yourself. But I just found it was the same routine. But then, after we bought the first place, I think the pushing point for me to buy the bus was really when we tried to buy an investment place in Atunga. And we were looking at it and we went through with the loan and everything, and we just needed a little bit of money.
Yeah, so it was, I think, mortgage, lender's insurance, and we actually got knocked back on rural location because the Atunga village is a little rural village outside of Tamworth. Everything else is lined up, the numbers, the math, the deposit, everything lined up, except the fact the village was rural apparently was enough to not give us a loan or our mortgage lender's insurance, and then not be able to get a loan.
Yeah, I think that was more with the us trying to rent it out. I think it was a primary residence. I think we would have got it through.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And then from that, I just remember in the evening, so we'd just been knocked back and we're thinking, are we going to reapply or what are we doing? And we're just sitting on the veranda, sort of having a chat. And we got around to the point that what do we actually want to do when our daughter finishes school? And she was 14, I think, at the time. What do we actually want to do when we're empty nesters? And the answer wasn't have 2 investment homes, keep working jobs we are not enjoying as much as we used to. That was definitely not the answer.
No, that's completely right. And with the way interest rates are gone, I think we've been way better off to get rid of the two homes.
Yeah, so in the sort of interim, I guess, we decided not to buy, or we stopped looking at houses, we stopped doing the open homes thing. We just sort of pulled up stumps and took a little while just to sort of sit and think about what we actually want and how we were going to get it. In the meantime, COVID happened. That was 2019, early 2020. COVID happened. And the interest rates went up, everybody stayed home, everything sort of got a little bit destabilized, and that sort of again drove home the fact that we just don't want to keep doing what we're doing day in, day out, year after year, same. We just wanted to move on and try something new.
I remember the decision to buy the bus. I think we both talked and we talked about a caravan and whatnot. And well, I think we were worried about the space in the caravan. Like we didn't want to tow like a 40-foot van behind the ute, and then I think it'd be hard.
And all just like, yeah, we're so used to farms and big space and not being in each other's pocket, and we were sort of a bit worried about being stuck in a 23-foot caravan, and yeah, the space thing, and then towing a big van, and we're sort of a little bit stumped as to how we were going to do this travel thing, and how we're going to work. And we sort of, we watched a lot of Instagram and YouTubes and had a look at a lot of uh, things that other people were doing. And I really like the small home movement, the off grid. And I think Tom likes a bit of that off grid kind of lifestyle as well.
Yeah, I find it better than well, especially when you stay at places where you can sort of be by yourself and you're not stacked in on top of each other. Don't get me wrong, I do love staying at places like Stockton and that, like we are stacked on top of each other. But I find it very, if you're out in the bush and that, and if you can be away from everybody and just have your own space and whatnot, I think the off grid's a good option to have.
Yeah. And we were sort of just looking at all the things we wanted from this new travel life and what it was going to take for that to happen. And we settled on a bus. And I really also like the idea of doing a conversion, a model. I work in an office, so I was really looking forward to doing something physical at the end of the day. Tom, a little bit different. He worked physical all day. Probably last thing he wanted to do was come home and do the plumbing and the electrics. But bus was definitely sort of the where we landed on.
Yeah, that's right, I think. And especially like trying to find the right bus too was hard when you start looking around as well.
Yeah, we looked at a few buses, I remember, and looking at the legislation around the engineering certificates and things. There's quite a lot of,
Gas and electric tickets.
yeah, lots of things you have to sort of get signed off. So therefore, we sort of landed on the idea rather than getting a bus from scratch, we would see if we could find something that was done or partially done, just to save ourselves with the engineering and the structural and all that sort of stuff. And again, maybe Tom not having to do so much work on the construction, while giving me the space to maybe just modernize it a little bit. But so we sort of sat down and we decided we're going to buy a bus. We're going to buy one that's hopefully engineered to save us doing that, and then we were going to go forward from there.
Yeah, that's right. I remember we were fixated on the coasters for a while, and then hopped in. The headroom was terrible, but the idea with the coaster, I think, was all the parts would be available, being Toyota Motors around Australia. But then when you started looking at it with the three of us, I think it would have been pretty impractical.
And just for the record, those who don't know, Tom is 6'6", so headroom was a big problem. Headroom is still a problem in our bus. He bumps his head every day, so we didn't really solve the headroom problem, but he can stand up straighter than he could in a coaster. So yeah, and again, a coaster space may be about the same space as a caravan. We sort of weren't gaining any in the room department.
No, that's right. And then when we got on the big buses, I think we went. Did we look at one at Mandurin?
Yeah, we looked at
originally?
one at
Yeah,
Mandurin.
and then we went to the one at Dunedoo, which is the one we bought. And did we look at any others?
We looked
from
at
there?
one out near Coolah. It wasn't it was bigger than a coaster, but it wasn't
That's
a
right.
full coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's
we
right.
sort of looked at mid-mount engine, and then Tom, being mechanical and being a farmer, said he wanted something with a rear mount engine, so that was easy to access if we needed to do work. So we started looking at sort of practical things, wasn't it? You really liked the bus at Mildura, you really liked the layout that we looked at.
Yeah, the
there.
layout was good. It was sort of open plan with a kitchen. Then you walk around. The bathroom was in the middle of the bus, and you had to go through the bathroom to get to one side of the bed, and then and then you went straight ahead to get to the other side of the bed.
But it had a bigger kitchen sort of space. It was a sort of the off-center kind of layout that a lot of people go for.
That's right, and a front mount motor, I think, and that was a lot. I think that was about 40,000 from memory.
40,000, yeah, I think that's what we looked at.
Yeah.
That one.
And then the one at Dunedoo, this is the one we actually bought, and I think he had it on at 38,000 or something, and we got it for 28,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wanted cash, which was fun carting around for a while.
Yeah, you're cashing around a big wad of cash out to the middle of nowhere to pick up the bus. And then, yeah, the one from Dunedoo, it ticked mechanically a lot of the things we wanted. It had the engineering, it had the solar, it had water tanks in. Interior, a bit of a mess. It had done a lap of Oz with small kids, and it kind of showed. So, although I don't think we ever originally set out to do a full gut and restrip like it ended up. I just thought new doona and some paint to start with, but it ended up being bigger, a much bigger project.
Plus the mouse plague. Remember the dead bodies we pulled out of everywhere? The whole bus must have mice all through it.
So we bought the bus right at the end of the big drought. And the mouse plague that quickly followed, and the guy we bought it off had actually started stripping things out to find the dead mice in the bus. And as we stripped out the bus, the amount of mice carcasses and skeletons we found it was like Halloween in here every day. The mice really did some damage, and electrically and things they'd done quite a bit of damage too. They'd sort of done a fair bit of chewing to interiors and carpets and wires and pretty much everything they could sink their little teeth into. And on that note, I think that pulls us up for this episode. Make sure you tune into Ep 2. We're going to talk about stripping out the bus, what was in it when we got it, what we wanted to keep, what we wanted to get rid of.
Other than the
mice, maybe about getting rid of the mice. What we've done with the start of design and layout, and why we sort of started making the choices we did. And I'll throw up a photo on the social media as well of the day we bought the bus. I think I just posted on social media, we bought a bus because our family really didn't know we were going to go and buy a bus. So everyone was very shocked when we popped up a big blue and white bus, and we bought a bus, and people really started to go, what the hell are you guys up to? But it's been a great ride since then, and I don't think we'd change that decision in a heartbeat. Now, a little bit on a personal sort of note here, we're all, as a family, kind of known for our dry humour and slightly bogan outtake on life. Little bit country, little bit bogan. And so Tom, he's got and Ali too, particularly have a very dry humour. So Tom's decided he's going to share a little bit of a joke with us on a regular basis. Now, just a warning, they're probably not going to be very PG jokes, but he's going to start today with a fairly PG kind of safe joke about our daughter Ali, I believe.
Yeah, it is about Ali. What is Alexander into?
What is Alexander into?
Interesting.
Yes, Ali, for those following along, is known as the sloth in the bus, and her bed is known as the sloth hole, because being a typical teenager, she just does like to veg out on the phone with a bit of TikTok. So Ali is interesting. She is into resting. And just as Tom likes a good joke, I like little motivational memes and snippets and little words of wisdoms that I find all over the place, actually. And so I thought I might share one of those with you regularly. And this one probably hits the mark from the motivation to buy a bus. And it's when someone asks what my dream job is literally nothing. Who dreams to have a job? My only passion is to travel and eat good food. And that about sums me up very well. Make sure you follow us on all the social media channels at O'Neill's on the Run, and tune in regularly to come along with us on this crazy adventure.